family. Firstly, thank you to Dirk Hay and all of the organizers of this event. It's a beautiful event. We've been all over the state and we've seen a lot of these dinners. And of course, that's kind of our only way of getting in, being political outsiders. And I'm 100% political outsider. I've been studying this stuff for about 20 years. And, I finally kind of said, well, enough is enough, so I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. And so look, I know I don't look like your normal everyday politician, but if you just set your mind about the mid-1800s, I look exactly like, And of course, we honor a great man with a beard tonight at this dinner. So look, as Tom said, thankful to him as well. We spoke at length before tonight. Finally had the opportunity to meet him in person, so blessed for that. Look, I think as the judge executive said, ultimately, limited government is the way. And I know that not just from an outsider's point of view, but from being inside of it, where the government has come after me time and time again, just for disagreeing with policy that I can't take part in because of childhood trauma. Again, sued the TSA 2 days later, they put me on terrorist watch list. Luckily, we were in a court case, the judge kind of seen through it, and I was removed from that pretty quickly. But I just want to say, if you really want to know what it is your government is doing for you, we're nearly 4.5, almost 5 years removed from this very day they placed me on this watch list. And I filed an appeal with the Department of Homeland Security the very day they placed me on that list in Ontario, California. And I haven't heard a single word back. Not a single word. So I think that's not good. That to me speaks to the inefficiency of the government. Again, the DOT. So, for instance, when we lost the TSA case, we went to the CDC and the 5 major airlines. That is still an active case. Again, I litigated that pro se out of council because we could not find an attorney in this state or the nation that would take it. We have passed a motion to dismiss, which is one of the biggest hurdles to overcome, especially as a pro se litigant. And I think we'll move into discovery in that case. But the DOT, kind of has a racket on basically being discriminated in aviation. And what I want to speak to that is, it's not just aviation. There's so many laws that have been created. And the case law that backed it up, that's been kind of used against the normal, everyday American citizen to protect kind of ultimate big corporatocracy. Against the normal everyday citizen, to revisit the government for grievances, and that's kind of what has inspired me to run, because there's a big problem with our federal judiciary, and Congress has the power to correct it ultimately, and they have not done it. So you can imagine that a lot of our platform is holding the federal judiciary accountable. So. With that being said, as a person who believes wholeheartedly in the First Amendment, I say things sometimes that would probably get me fired from my job, so I created my own company. And what we do is basically just take these old Blackhawks, we demilitarize them and certify them in the civilian world, and they use them for wildland fire and utility construction. And if I would have done that, I would be living in this paradigm of today where, the common age of homeowners are almost 40 years old. And that just seems crazy to me, that we have people who are, going all the way through the 30s not being able to afford a home. So we have to get back to where we can provide folks with a path to a single income household and to raise a family like we do, that our mothers and grandmothers and fathers did before us. And as I stand here, I look at Eastern Kentucky, and I feel like ultimately you guys have been forgotten about, especially with the DC establishment. You always hear about big coal coming back to this region. In my opinion, I think right now we've dug all we're going to get. Everything else is so deep and so thin. The big bankers and the company men and the machines, they're coming back. So a little bit controversial, but right now what we see across the state are these data centers, and we want to get ahead of this, this boom of AI and keep China out of running the lead on it. And in my opinion, the top of those mountains are great places to put those centers away from the populace and make sure our farmland stays farmable. Again, you've got all kinds of sides and mountaintops you could throw solar on. You could use that natural gravity to put in water energy, nuclear power, things like that. And I think we can fund that with Trump's tariffs. You may not always really agree with that, and some folks call it a tax on the people, but we also can't stand here being taken advantage of either. We've got to become a working society instead of a buying society, and quit consuming everybody else's goods, but make our own and become independent. And again, I'm for terminals, as the gentleman said. It's a tough ask, it really is, because who's going to put themselves out of a job? The true term limit was set by the founding fathers, who structured the Senate and the House in those 2-year terms, and the Senate every 6 years they were replaced as a tier, hoping that an educated voter base would absolutely get rid of their representative when they didn't work in their interest. So for me, that is the ultimate term limit, is being an educated voter base. And here tonight, there's a lot of you here, and I would hope that as you hear this message from all of your Senate candidates, that you really dig into those campaigns and kind of follow where they come from, what they're telling you that they're willing to do for you, and vote them in based on that idea. We need some election integrity. And we've seen in 2020 how crazy the election was. Out of nowhere, we had these anomalies that we've never had in the history of our country. And you had a quote-unquote president that won an election in a way that no one's ever done it before. And so, again, I think with election integrity comes the idea of running folks in these positions who come from what it is you come from. I mean, right now you see a guy in a three-piece suit, you don't know him, he's got a beard, looks a little revolutionary, okay, all good. What you don't see from where you sit is the grease under my fingernails from putting these helicopters back together with my men. I'm very much one of you, and so most of this campaign is self-funded. Any donations we have are from hardworking Kentuckians. And I don't like that idea because I think that they need to keep their money and just use their knowledge and their votes to hire the people that they're willing to have to represent them. So, with that being said, I'll leave this. I appreciate you having me here for this dinner. It was great. It tastes good. I love this area. I'd be willing to talk with any of you after this in depth about any policy that we have. And God bless you. God bless the Commonwealth of Kentucky.